Здравствуйте, товарищи. Меня зовут
Hello,
Ирина, и мой доклад
name is Irina. In my presentation today, we'll focus
примитивов.
on cryptanalysis of arithmetically oriented primitives.
Нулевым разглашением
With the advance of zero disclosure proof,
двоично ориентированные
it has turned out that binary-oriented hash functions that we know so well are not ideally designed for modern-day use.
мало того, что
The reason being that
каждого бита требуется создать
for coding every bit, you will need to create new systems of constraints, but also you will need to go about proving that your operands are in fact bits.
арифметические
That's why arithmetically oriented primitives have been developed where operations
по модулю некоторого простого
actually happen in a field using a
2012 году
Back in 2012,
distribution of linear
in the article on the distribution of linear abuses,
examples было доказано,
it was pretty clearly shown and proved
для
that
функции
linear deviation for a cubic function
не превосходит
will not exceed
π,
2 divided by p,
что
which means
стойкости к линейному криптоанализу все эти
that in terms of robustness to linear cryptanalysis, all the same kind of considerations will hold.
все это
So with alpha equal to 5 and 7 and so on, similar calculations can be performed with similar conclusions, obviously. To this very day, now interesting differential attacks versus arithmetically oriented ciphers have been shown. We have seen, however, a hybrid,
алгебры.
a differential algebraic.
Вот. Смешанная дифференциально-алгебраическая атака.
So a hybrid differential and algebraic attack,
Ее нельзя отнести в полной мере к
which cannot really be considered part of differential cryptanalysis.
эффективных.
So we can effectively state that no effective nonlinear attacks have been exemplified so far.
Что касается, собственно,
Now, as regards
криптоанализа,
algebraic cryptanalysis,
один из самых эффективных его методов
and one of the most effective methods there is interpolation cryptanalysis,
в ходе которого каждая из выходных
wherein
слов примитива
each of the resultants of a primitive
члена от
is described as a polynomial of all its input words.
этого многочлена,
So the first thing you do is assess the power of the polynomial.
собственно, число материалов.
Then, depending on this, you will see the amount of material that you need to construct it. And then based on that,
Например, с
you
помощью
should be able to perform your interpolation using the Vandermonde matrix or the Lagrange polynomial, which should be much more efficient.
эта атака может быть модифицирована
Now, an attack here
ключевых функций
can be modified for non-key functions or keyless functions.
второго прообраза.
For example, in order to identify the second pre-image, there is the following scenario, where we have a hash function. So the core or the kernel of the hash function transforms two input words into one output word.
Так, не, без шансов.
It doesn't seem to be working.
Вот, мы выбираем и фиксируем значение первого.
So we select and we affix the meaning of word 1. And then we are playing with mi, with the second word, sort of, doing the dictionary in m.
отражающий зависимость.
So this way we develop a polynomial p of x for different
Положительно,
tuples, so to speak, different pairs mh.
верно, если его степень
So if it's the right polynomial and if we believe that the power is correctly established, then the roots of this polynomial will be the second pre-images to the h hash.
для нахождения коллизий.
Now, in order to identify collisions in the same function, we can choose two numbers, or two words in our case, m and m dash, then play with m and m dash I in order to produce hashes h and hi dash, and then we construct several polynomials. One is p of x using couples m and hi, and q of x using m dash I and h dash I. And then we go looking for the roots of p of x less q of x polynomial, which apparently will be the words that we're looking for.
сводятся либо к тому, что
all the potential scenarios here
корни некоторого многочлена,
will involve us either looking for the roots of a polynomial
что нужно найти
or
больший общий делитель двух многочленов.
they will be about finding the greatest common divisor.
Собственно, алгоритм считается стойким к
Now, an algorithm will be considered robust to interpolation cryptanalysis
текстов необходимых
as long as the number of texts
нашего интерполируемого многочлена
monomials that you need for the polynomial
границы безопасности
is approaching the security threshold or number p, or the p number.
число мономов многочлений можно оценить как
So the number of monomials in a polynomial can be assessed as alpha to the power of r, and you will remember that alpha is the power of the nonlinear layer,
в степени h.
plus 1 to the power of h, and h corresponds to the number of variables we don't know.
Размером многочлена
Now, besides the dimension or the size of the polynomial, another important criterion is its density. And it has been proved that it
числе раундов.
is maximized with the following number of rounds.
С одной неизвестной переменной.
For a case with a single unknown variable,
Ну, у нас, собственно, это значение будет минимальным.
obviously this value will be minimized.
Этот случай
And that's why we are in fact considering this particular case here.
следующим образом.
And we assess the complexity of that
Сложность нахождения
with the formula in the middle of my slide.
тоже можно
So we are actually showing how we can find or establish both the roots and the greatest common divisor.
операций, которая требуется
So shown here is the number of operations that you need in order to multiply two polynomials of, maximum length of alpha to the power of r.
одна из наиболее практически эффективных атак.
And we've already mentioned that this is one of the most efficient attacks of all the attacks practical. And as part of the theorem foundation contest, it has been shown that
Поиска
like a Poseidon 256 kind of problem was solvable.
хэша, в котором
So there they were looking for a kind of a hash pre-image where you know
ну или
a certain number of bits or words, as the case may be,
причем хэш от этого
while the hash of the pre-image
ну тоже быть таким, чтобы в нем было известно
has to be such that,
некоторое там число бит или слов.
a number of bits or words from it.
Экземпляров Посейдон
So Poseidon 256,
анализу 24, 28 бит. Ну и
which had, 24 and 28. Which had robustness to interpolation cryptanalysis values of 24 and 28. So far, nobody has done that for Poseidon 256 with robustness value of 32.
собственно, в ходе которой
Another algebraic attack
полиномиальных уравнений из этих
involves, a function being shown as a system of polynomial equations where the system is simplified and then we go looking for solutions.
довольно прост.
So the first item is quite simplistic,
Со вторым и третьим возникают вопросы.
but there could be questions regarding the second and the third elements. So for optimization purposes, Grobner basis can be very handy. Let me remind the audience what Grobner basis is. So there is the ring ideal, and we'll only be talking here about two-sided commutative cases. So effectively, it's
Сумма лежит в
a kind of a subset in a group ideal. So
Для любого элемента из
For any element of the ideal, the sum belongs to the ideal. For any element out of the ideal, the inverse element also belongs to the ideal. It's
результат умножения любого элемента идеала на любой элемент внешнего кольца у нас тоже
kind of additively inverse element.
следует особенно.
Now, this actually means something very interesting for us. That if you have two polynomials that belong to the same ideal, then one polynomial of the modulus of the other polynomial will also belong to the same ideal.
Для построения базиса, позволяющего.
In order to construct a basis that will help us simplify and solve the system,
базис Грёбнера.
It is preferable to use the Grobner basis,
Конечное множество многочленов, порождающих.
which is a finite set of polynomials which gives rise to the ideal. And for any polynomial which belongs to the ideal, we should be able to find a polynomial which also belongs to the basis, so that the senior monom B
делится на старший моном многочлена, принадлежащего базису.
will be aliquot by the senior monom G.
При приведении
What that means is that as we are using Grobner basis to address this system, we should be able to have at least one equation with just a single variable.
Если
Unknown variable, that's what I mean. So, if we're lucky,
у нас будет
in the left-hand part of the system, we'll have just a single monome.
базис Грёбнера строится по критерию.
Grobner basis is aligned with the Bergberger criterion. And the criterion actually reminds us that a Grobner basis is only considered a Grobner basis only when, for any polynomials belonging to it,
Многочлен этой самой пары
the S polynomial of the couple of polynomials
без остатка.
will be aliquot
Многочлен у нас
of the basis. That is, you can divide it by G with no remainder.
Для того, чтобы построение базиса было эффективным и
In order for the basis construction to be effective and efficient,
деление было корректным, нам нужно
and in order for the division to be correct, we need to comply with a specific order, and Gravlax is the one that's usually used in those cases, and it's multiplicative,
в нем единица, в нем минимальна. Это, собственно,
and one is minimal there.
касается почти вообще всех возможных порядков. А что самое
Now, this is in fact true for most orders.
остаток отделения
Interestingly enough, the remainder from division by the polynomial set will not depend on the order of divisors,
что делает конечным
and the total power of monom is taken into account, which actually means that the number of monoms smaller than the current one will be finite. And due to all these features, it is considered the best for optimization purposes.
Собственно, сложность вычисления базиса Грёбнера в порядке Гревлекс.
Now, the complexity of calculating Grobner basis in the Gravlax order can be shown like this. So V here is the number of variables, omega is a constant ranging from 2 to 3, while D reg is an index of regularity.
В общем, есть такая финная функция Гильберт,
So there is an affine function of Gilbert,
представляя собой число мономов степень,
which effectively represents the number of monoms with a power below or equal to S, which do not belong to the basis.
собственно, афинный прином Гильберта, который,
And there is also Gilbert's affine prenome,
начиная с какого-то
which,
аппроксимирует
starting from a particular value, will be approximating
самое значение,
this function.
которое
So this threshold value, after which the two will be kind of aligned, is called the regularity index. So when you have the number of equations equal to the number of variables, DREC will be approximated with the function I'm showing here. And D with the I index is the power.
Сложность поиска корней многочисленной степени.
Complexity of finding the roots of a D power polynomial is like this.
2m бит защиты при 2m равном.
So for 2m bits in security, the minimum number of rounds you need to restore the hash pre-image can be calculated like this. Now we need to look at two different cases. Here in the first one, we have just a single variable.
Когда наш базис уже является базисом Грёбнера.
And this means that our basis will be a Gröbner basis.
Число раундов должно превышать
And the number of rounds should exceed logarithm of p on the basis of alpha.
Больше одной переменной.
Now the second case, where we have more than one variable,
значение у нас минимизируется при числе.
So you will see here that this value will be minimal
при неединичном числе переменных.
When the number of variables is not 1. And in fact, it will be minimal when x equals 2.
Числе у нас.
So in this particular case,
превышать следующее значение.
R should exceed the following value.
Мы сравниваем их между собой.
So we compare the two in order to select the maximum number of rounds or identify the maximum number of rounds we need to ensure a certain level of robustness to algebraic cryptanalysis.
Еще один интересный способ – это криптоанализ с использованием результатов. Результат – это определитель матрицы Сильвестра, следующего вида.
Let's look at the usage of resultants for cryptanalysis.
Есть два многочлена.
So we see here two polynomials.
X1 XS Y, Z, X1 XS Y. И мы представляем их как многочлены.
And we can represent them as polynomials of y.
Которые относятся, в которую входит переменная x, она считается за коэффициент при y в какой-то степени.
So with y in the power to the power of something, as the bottom line shows.
Коэффициенты мы записываем в матрицу.
I'm sorry. So we take the coefficients derived like this, we put them in the matrix.
И на выходе получаем многочлен h от x1, x.
We get its determinant, and as the output, we get the h polynomial, wherein a set of variables such as xx dash and so on will be roots of f of x and g of x simultaneously, then h of x1 dash will equal 0.
Собственно, если у нас достаточно этих самых уравнений, мы можем повторять этот самый процесс итеративно до того.
So, if we have enough equations, we can do it iteratively until we come up with an equation with a single variable which we can solve, and then we will be able to take the values from that equation and derive everything else.
Конечно, Есть, конечно, и ограничения.
Well, there are certainly limitations.
А именно, что с каждым новым таким преобразованием
such that with every transformation like this,
степени оставшихся переменных очень
the powers of remaining variables will increase significantly, which means that the size of the Sylvester matrix will also grow considerably. So over time, it will become impossible.
Будет невозможно по памяти построить, собственно, такую матрицу и посчитать ее, определить.
To build a matrix like this and derive its determinant.
Для того, чтобы избежать этого, используют
Easily at least. In order to avoid that, the Lagrange method is used.
наборы переменных.
So we can select sets of variables that will satisfy f of x,
Значение, являющееся f от этих наборов переменных и g от этого набора переменных.
So f of x and g of x.
Ну и, собственно, вычисляем.
And then we shall be able to calculate
Аппроксимацию этого многочлена.
An approximation of this polynomial using them.
Собственно, сама атака состоит из трех.
Now the attack itself consists of 3 stages. Number 1 is building your system of equations. Next, you iteratively calculate the resultants, and then you go looking for roots.
Здесь первая часть построения системы уравнений тоже довольно нетривиально, потому что если
Now the first part here is non-trivial, because if we have taken to an inverted power, it will be processed or handled in a particular way, which adds to the complexity to alpha minus 1 to the power of n. N is actually the number of inverted equations, while m is the total number of multiplications in the system, while d of x
максимальная степень, собственно,
is the maximal power of the variables.
Сложность второго и третьего этапа у нас
The complexity of stages 2 and 3
сливается, так сказать, в вот это вот выражение.
is merged in the formula I'm showing,
От того, насколько эффективно
or in the expression there.
закодировать систему.
And depending on whether we have been able to effectively encrypt the system, the time different stages can take will differ significantly. So shown here are results of attack against Animo, Griffin, and Risky Prime.
Наиболее выдающийся результат — это как раз атака на Rescue Prime.
And I think that Rescue Prime attack results are the most interesting here, since a single round of Rescue Prime includes or consists of 6 parts,
нелинейных, два слоя линейных,
2 nonlinear, 2 linear layers, 2 layers of addition with a constant or to a constant.
Можно было написать 12.
So effectively, we could have shown 12 here instead of 6 in the R column.
Поэтому вот такая вот многообещающая, собственно, атака.
So it does look like a pretty promising type of attack.
Для этой атаки и для предыдущей атаки можно обойти
For this attack and the previous attack,
два раунда, как бы протащив наш...
You can sort of bypass 2 rounds by carrying the hash value through them,
еще более эффективной.
which increases the attack efficiency even further. Thank you very much for your attention.
Вот здесь будут материалы, связанные с...
And additional material related to this report can be found here. And again, let me offer my apologies
Друзья, коллеги,
for my coughing.
если у вас вопросы?
Dear friends, colleagues, experts, do you have any questions regarding the mathematical element of algebraic attacks and primitives? Yes, over there.
Микрофон с этой стороны, и есть микрофон.
We've got a mic here and a mic there.
Не вижу, но вот где ребята сидят, там он есть.
Можно?
Да.
Спасибо за доклад. А интересно узнать, есть ли какие-то случаи атак на функции?
I'm wondering if there have been cases of attack against the Poseidon function because it's already being used in Ether. So it's very relevant. I know little about it, though.
Да, сейчас проходит Poseidon.
Yes, Poseidon challenge is ongoing right now. And there they are looking at input constraint and output kind of task for Poseidon. And in fact, they've been able to hack it with interpolation cryptanalysis. And like I said in my presentation, they were able to hack samples which have robustness values of 24 and 28, but not 32. Thank you.
Спасибо за доклад. Подскажите, пожалуйста,
Thank you very much for your report.
таких смотрели на
I'm wondering if anybody has analyzed grid attacks on polynomials. So far, we have not seen a single effective grid attack.
Технические, которые не дойдут.
I think there are some technical reasons for that. Thank you very much.